What's going on, everybody? Christian Ballard, Ballard Sports Media, coming at you with a preview today. I almost don't know if I want to do this one, but I think it's only fair if we want to get as many teams as possible. And the goal is to get every Power Four team, plus possibly Oregon State and Washington State in the Pac 2. We'll do Group of Five if we somehow, by a miracle, make it through the Power Four. And then we'll probably do some Group of Five. I don't know. But it's only fair. They're still in the ACC. They can cry and complain. We got to look at Florida State at some point. I figured we go ahead and rip the band aid off. And when I say all this, I don't hate Florida State. I don't hate Mike Norvell. I don't hate what they have in terms of players and everything. I don't. I think that Florida State is a likable team, but at the same time, I feel like it's kind of fading in that sense because I mean, be honest about what has happened. I mean, they sued their own conference because they couldn't make the playoff, which they could have made the playoff, but I don't know if they necessarily felt like, oh, the scheduling played a factor or something, but they basically in 2023 they missed the CFP. They spent the whole offseason whining and complaining and moaning and suing the ACC instead of focusing on football. And it's just a whole downfall. And then you have last year. I don't know what you want to call it other than it was hilarious and a disaster. It was only hilarious because we know of the news of them trying to get out of the ACC, and it ultimately backfired because it seemed like as if they just didn't like. I'm not going to deny like, oh, they didn't have practices. We know that's not true, but they went 2-10 and practice and trying to win the ACC again or try to compete in everything. It just was not their go-to. It wasn't their main focus point, at least from our perspective as media and fans. But you fast forward to 2025, can it be different? Well, it doesn't open up in their favor. Go ahead and add the schedule to the screen here. They do open with the Crimson Tide, my Crimson Tide, that is. Big Alabama fan, if you don't know. Of course, you probably do if you've watched this channel for a while. So they open with Alabama. They play East Texas A&M at home on September 6th. They get a bye week. Everyone's getting 2 bye weeks this year. They play Kent State at home at Doak Campbell. They go to Scott Stadium in Charlottesville to play the Cavaliers. They play Miami at home. They play Pitt at Stanford. Bye week, Wake at Clemson, Virginia Tech at NC State, and at Florida. Seems like I I, I really don't know what to expect necessarily from this team. I mean, you could research this team all day. You could look at their recruiting. You could look at whatever. They have 23 commits in 2025. They have the 18th overall class. No 5 stars. They have 4 and 3 stars. They have a defensive lineman, Kevin Wynn, coming in as a freshman. Uh, LaJesse Harold is from Tampa. He's an edge. He's a 4-star. Mario Nash is from somewhere, DeKalb, Mississippi, if I'm saying that right. Interior offensive lineman. Then they got some receivers and tight ends. So they got some incoming weapons. They've gotten like 4 or 5 pass rush edge commits, which is really good. But nobody really stands out as a go-to guy that can make a difference as a freshman. I really don't know. Signed letter of intent and actually signed Tariq Mallory is a wide receiver. Usmain Chroma is a running back. And I could go down the list. I do think that Florida State is going to be in a weird position this year. I look at it as, they bring some guys, excuse me, they bring some guys back. They also lose quite a bit. You know, quite a bit of freshmen. They do have a five-star Charles Lester coming in as, I guess, from last year's class as a defensive back. Charles Lester is a five-star freshman. He wasn't at least listed for this year's class. They got Marvin Jones on the D line. I think I don't even. Here's the thing. I don't know what happened with Florida State last year. I don't think they necessarily lacked talent. I would like to believe they had all the talent in the world because they really had some guys come back from 2023. Um, that just it did not, you know, transfer over to the field. The quarterback room, they bring in Brock Glenn. He comes back. Luke Crummenhoek. Dylan McNamara is a Iowa transfer. I believe he's from Iowa. Cade McNamara's brother, or I could be wrong on where he's coming from. But they basically, I'm gonna say this: if I am Mike Norvell and I'm looking at the leadership for this offense, um, Baron Collier from high school, and then he committed to Florida State and signed. So, uh, Dylan McNamara actually, I apologize, has transferred, entered the portal back in December. So, scratch that name off the list. So, I'm gonna say this: it's not going to be an easy schedule. The non-con outside of Alabama could be pretty favorable outside of them in Florida at the end of the year. I mean, you got to win games this year, like East Texas A&M, Kent State, who's after a bye week. When you look at the ACC play, um, Pitt, Stanford, Miami. Only reason now Miami's going to be a good team. Pitt might be improved. Stanford, I'm not too sold on too much. I only say they're going to be tough games because it's Florida State, and we know the downfall that they had last year. And we could go on and on about it, but there's really nothing I have to say about Florida State other than I just need to see improvement. I do. That Alabama game is huge. They don't have to win that, but they got to do something where they can compete. They have to. Uh, I don't have a list of losses or key wins. I really don't know. I think they are going to lose to Alabama to open things. I think they'll beat East Texas A&M and Kent State. They might could go to Virginia and win. They'll lose to Miami. I'm looking at those after Alabama. I'm looking at 3 wins before Miami. You go in 3-1. I think you could maybe go to NC State and win. Maybe get Virginia Tech. Maybe get Wake. 3 extra. Maybe they could get back to going to a bowl. I just there's so much with Florida State and how they screwed up last year. I mean, I'm getting frustrated over this. I'm not even a Florida State fan. Like, I wish I knew how to predict, but this is just that team that we just have to watch. Are they going to ever get out of the ACC? That's a big question. We don't know. We really don't know. Nobody wants them. They tried to sue the ACC, which made things even worse. My record prediction, just to sum it up, make this one quick on you guys, 5-7. If you want to comment down below, tell me how dumb I am for coming up with that record prediction. it's too much or too little, or I need to do more research. I tried to do my research on this one. I don't know what to make of Florida State. I really don't. I'm at a loss for words for them. They got some transfers. They got some guys going out. That is true. But you cannot you cannot off the top of your head or with a straight face look me in the eye and tell me that well Florida State's gonna be much improved. You can't just say that with a straight face, can you? I mean, what? I don't know. Not to mention that a week ago, LSU had hired a former Florida State offensive coordinator to their staff, so they took him out. Um, I don't know, man. It's just amazing at the downfall. I think if Florida State handles the off season, I think they can have a good year next year. Not a great year, but a decent year. If they don't stumble in their own way, don't trip over themselves, they could beat 5-7. They could prove me wrong. They could go 7-5. Maybe they could hit 8-4. And honestly, I feel that way. But that's if they practice, if they get it together, because I want to believe that Mike Norvell is a great head coach. I really think so. And again, there's going to be two types of people that watch this video and comment. There's going to be those who agree with that statement that I just made, or there's going to be people that disagree and say you've been living under a rock. He's not a great head coach. It wasn't but a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, whatever, when they had a chance at the playoff. They were practically the only undefeated team outside of Michigan, right? And they got I'll even admit that they got snubbed out of the playoffs. I don't think Alabama should have been in there. I mean, I'm grateful as a fan, but I still looked at Florida State. I'm like, man, I mean, is there SEC bias? Is there something against the ACC? Is it because Jordan Travis got hurt? I don't know. 5-7 is what I'll set it at. I can't really come up with the wins necessarily. I mean, I guess you could. I think that it comes early. East Texas A&M, Kent State, Virginia, Pitt, and Stanford. Those are your 5 wins early on. I'm not certain they could beat Alabama. Maybe they could in week 1. It is at home. It could be a night game by the time that kicks off. That'll give them some sort of advantage, I guess. Miami's going to be a good team. Pitt's going to be a good team. Florida at the end of the year. Clemson on the road. And Wake Forest. Oh, maybe they get Wake Forest. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, love you guys. God bless. Jesus loves you. And we'll see you next time here at BSM.